Hi, Thriller Movies Recap here. Today I'm going to show you a movie titled The Woman in Black, so relax and enjoy. Spoilers ahead, watch out. Arthur Kipps, a young lawyer who is grieving the death of his lovely wife after she gave birth to a son. His now toddler son paints sketches of him with a dejected expression. He moves to a remote village where he is despised by the majority of the residents after being hired to prepare a large house on a marsh for sale. When he goes to look at the Eel Marsh house, the late Alice Strablo's estate, he discovers that his job has become more dangerous because the building is haunted by the ghost of a lady who was spurned. From the locals, he discovers that the spirit of the woman in black desires retribution on the villagers' kids because her child was taken. Sam and his wife Elizabeth became friends with Kipps. They assist the attorney in learning more about the history of the estate and what transpired because they too had lost a son. Three adorable young girls are playing independently with porcelain dolls in the nursery room while all three are dressed in what appear to be nursery clothes. They look at the back wall before suddenly staring at each other. The day is clear, and nobody is present. They stand up, hold hands, and go to the window while without saying a word. They spontaneously jump after opening the three windows. A moment of quiet is observed. A female scream is heard out of nowhere, likely coming from the person who just found the bodies of the three young girls. Cut to young agent Arthur Kipps. Because this real estate company is not a charity and he would not be given another chance if he makes another mistake, his boss, Mr. Bentley, rudely informs him that this is his final chance. Joseph, Arthur's 7-year-old son, bids Arthur farewell. This is a serious boy, and because of Arthur's work dedication, he will be left alone. He will be looked for in the meanwhile by the nurse, Jessica Rain. On a piece of paper marked Tuesday, no capital here, Joseph has painted himself, his parents, and himself as an angel perched on a cloud. When his father questions Joseph about why he drew Arthur with a dejected expression, Joseph replies that it's just how he looks. By train, Arthur gets around. He engages in conversation with another traveler before turning to look at a young child who is also in the vehicle. Arthur thinks back to the day his son was born. The doctor immediately apologizes, saying that there was nothing he could have done for the kid even though the nurse happily announced it's a boy and the boy was in wonderful condition. Arthur is shocked to witness Stella Kipps' frightened face being covered with a blood-stained sheet. Sam Daly, the other passenger, offers to drive him into town. Additionally, he extends a dinner invitation to him and his wife the next day. The town is pitch black, and everyone appears afraid and glum. When parents notice the guest, they tell their kids to enter. Kipps is kept in the attic of the local inn, which is where the three young girls jumped from at the opening of the movie. Mr. Fisher appears to be an impolite, unforgiving host. The local attorney, Mr. Jerome, is visited by Kipps the following day. Jerome advises him to leave town as soon as possible, but Mr. Kipps says that in order to do a thorough and impartial review of all the goods in the house, he will need to remain up at least until Friday. Kipps refuses to go to the mansion despite a cabbie waiting to take him to the railway station. The cab driver complains that nobody else will take Kipps there at all and demands 6 shillings for the trip, apparently an unreasonable amount. The town and the solitary, deserted mansion are connected by a small causeway that winds through the marshes. Kipps is dropped off by the driver just outside the mansion's grounds. He responds that it will have to be at 5 due of the tide when Arthur asks him to pick him up at 3. Arthur walks onto the grounds. He climbs to the second level of the house because it appears that no one is inside. Before getting to work in front of a stack of papers, he glances at Joseph's drawing. He notices a nest of ravens inside one of the bedrooms. He is startled when a raven comes out and takes off. Arthur glances out the window because he believes he has heard something. Among the tombstones in the garden, a dark shadow can be seen. The crow circles before gently landing on the mattress. When Arthur turns to look outside once more, the cemetery is empty. Arthur leaves quickly. He can't see anything or anyone for that matter due to the dense fog. It feels as though something dreadful is going to happen, but the driver, who has just arrived to pick up Arthur, is the only one there. He warns Arthur to exercise caution. The driver informs Arthur that some youngsters drowned in the marshes after hearing what he believed to be children's cries in the distance. In order to report the intruder to the authorities, Arthur rushes to the police station. No peasant would voluntarily go to such mansion, according to Collins, the constable. The police officer enters the basement to search for something. At that point, two kids show up carrying Victoria Hardy, a severely ill youngster who has just consumed lye and is spitting blood. Arthur yells but is helpless to save the infant. Vicky passes away in his arms. When Arthur returns to his accommodations, he hears what he believes to be the soft sobs of a lady. He shouts out for Mrs. Fisher, but what he actually hears is a pet raven imitating a woman's weeping voice. He is given a drink by Mrs. Fisher. Everything seems to be going well at the dinner with the Dailies, even though the conversation is a touch awkward. That is, until Elizabeth Daily has a fit and needs to be sedated. Sam Daly claims that although the area is full of superstitions, they are all only illusions in a subsequent chat. Later that evening, Arthur witnesses Elizabeth comforting and cuddling one of her dogs in a cradle made entirely of white lace. Arthur goes in search of Mr. Jerome, but instead discovers Kathy Sarah, a terrified girl trapped in a room, pleading with him to leave her alone because he has slain Victoria. Another lost girl is lamented by the peasants, but Daly dismisses their sorrow as superstition. The second time Arthur is being driven about by Sam in his vehicle, the camera is focused on a cross that has been placed alongside a wet walkway. Sam brings Arthur to the house and offers to pick him up there at 11 o'clock. But Arthur decides to stay the night. He borrows Sam's dog. Arthur starts some candles there. Arthur looks at a large wooden box with the name Nathaniel Drablow written on it because none of the keys can open one of the rooms. When Arthur spins a daguerreotype, he briefly glimpses the woman in black's dark eyes. Scribbled photos. The dog starts to bark as a shadow moves by. As the dog barks at Nathaniel Drablow's grave, Arthur pursues it. When they return to the mansion, Arthur notices Liz White's woman in black slipping away from the window. When Arthur enters that room, he notices the deteriorated view from the window. The woman in black emerges behind him and vanishes right away. Although he cannot see her, he senses something and glances about. He discovers cards signed Mummy from the woman in black, who was Nathaniel's birth mother, addressed to him in a wooden box. Janet, who shared a grave with Nathaniel, was that woman. According to the paperwork, it appears that Janet gave her child up for adoption because she was found unsuitable to parent him. Additionally, it is revealed that Nathaniel was adopted by Janet's sister Alice, who raised Nathaniel as her own child while keeping this a secret. Arthur learns from numerous letters that Janet was quite upset that she wasn't permitted to see her son. Nathaniel was killed in an accident, but his body was never discovered in the marshlands. The photographs of the Drablows show Nathaniel as the youngster, and Janet is depicted as a shadowy figure. When Arthur nods off, the shadow of the woman in black approaches but is scared away by the dog's barking. Following the dark corridor up to the closed chamber, Arthur awakens. He recalls his wife's death taking place in a confined room. He tries to open the door but is unsuccessful. He descends to try to find something to open it when all of a sudden, it is wide open. He grabs a lamp and an axe. The audience can briefly observe the woman in black rocking herself as the rocking chair is swaying on its own. He shows the mechanical toys the blood-spattered words "You could have saved him" that are hidden beneath the wallpaper. Returning to a window, he can clearly make out Janet's terrible screaming face. He can see pictures of numerous deceased youngsters who are rotting and suffering in the rainy night outside. He sees the woman in dark footprints as he runs back to the mansion, and he follows them to the room. Janet is seen by him hanging herself. He notices the woman in black coming from the opposite end of the corridor as he steps outside the door. Nathaniel emerges from the bed as Arthur shuts himself up in a space. When he steps outside, he sees Sam Daly waiting to pick him up. Arthur returns to town and notices Jerome's home is on fire. When he enters the home, he is able to witness Lucy Jerome setting herself on fire as the woman in black, who is in the room with her, silently encourages her. Arthur receives some comfort from Sam Daly. Sam is persuaded by Arthur to help him locate Nathaniel's body so they may give him a decent burial and reunite Nathaniel with his mother. He uses a rope to tie himself to Daly's car. Arthur enters the marshland's murky, slimy muck. Arthur climbs over the wagon and out of the bog while carrying Nathaniel's body because the vehicle is unable to support it. Nathaniel's body is shrouded by Arthur. Then, as he waits for the woman in black, he places his mother's postcards and other mechanical toys around the deceased person. Nathaniel's body is placed on top of Janet's after they uncover her grave. The woman in black seemed to still have a hard time forgiving in the following scenario. As a train approaches, Joseph lets go of Arthur's hand and leaps onto the railing. Arthur looks at the woman in black before glancing over to his son who is strolling along the rails. Joseph is about to be run over by the train as Arthur leaps onto the tracks to save him. Through the openings in the moving wagons, Sam can make out the dead children in their entirety as well as the shrieking woman in black on the opposite side of the track. Joseph is being held by Arthur in a deserted train station. They proceed together down the tracks as Stella warmly welcomes them both to the afterlife. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.